Hey everyone, welcome back to the Book Cave with me, Jenny. And today I'm going to be doing a book tag, and this is going to be the Hot or Not A to Z book tag. This was created by another bibliophile reads, and I will have that linked down below. And yeah, I'm just going to jump right in. So A stands for audiobooks. I would say right now, hot. It took me a very long time to get into them, however. B is for Bildungsroman, which is a coming-of-age story. I would say lukewarm. Obviously, some are done better than others. One of my favorites would have to be Charles Dickens books that follow that. Such as Oliver Twist and David Copperfield, and stuff like A Separate Peace, I feel like it kind of goes through there. C is for children's books. Yes, definitely. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I read at least a few children's books every year, and I just find them extremely fun. You know, something that's just light and cute. D is for digital. And again, yes, hot. They're much easier to transport and to store, for one. And the price point is also a big thing. E is for experimental. Not really. I haven't read a whole lot of experimental books. And I have read the few that I have, just haven't really hit for me, so they're not hot at all. Fantasy is definitely hot, although I lean more towards the sci-fi, but there is a lot of overlap there. G, graphic novel. No, this is ice cold. Of course, this is like boiling hot. One of my absolute favorite things to read is graphic novels, mangas, webtoons, anything like that. H is for horror. Right now I would say lukewarm. When I was younger, I used to be all about the horror, and now, while I don't mind it, it's just not something I gravitate towards. I for inspirational. Sorry, I'm getting Goodreads notifications. Inspirational, I would say this is, again, a lukewarm. It's just really hit and miss for me. Some of the stuff that is said to be inspirational, I honestly don't find inspirational, or I feel like some of it is just airing dirty laundry. J is for journalism. If it's scientific journalism, then yes, hot. Otherwise, not really. K is for kitsch, which means it has a popular or sentimental appeal. I would say this is getting hotter. I've read a few books that have sentimental appeal and have enjoyed them. They're not my favorites, but I am starting to enjoy them more. L is for library. This is another thing that is absolutely like boiling hot. I love the library. I have so many books from there, as you know from all the times I talk about where I've gotten all these books from. M is for mystery. I would say this is pretty cold. I am not huge into mystery, at least not other than like Sherlock Holmes, and I haven't read any Sherlock Holmes in quite a while, so this is one that I definitely want to read more of, but just haven't really gotten to it. N for nonfiction. I would say again this is more of a lukewarm. If it's something that interests me, hot. If it's something that doesn't, then it's definitely not. O is for omnibus, and I would say yes, hot. I enjoy having the bind-ups that are a complete collection, be it of a series or an author's works. I just like that. It's very convenient. P is for poetry. I would say this is pretty hot. I haven't read a lot of poetry recently, but I do normally read at least a little bit every year, and I've always enjoy it. Q is for quests. Yes, I'd have to say this is hot because it's a huge thing in the fantasy books, and a lot of the sci-fi books I read do have a type of quest or some sort of a journey at least. R is for romance. I would say this is getting colder. I went through a heavy romance phase right before I jumped into BookTube. It was mostly like historical and contemporary romances. I am still reading stuff that has romance in it, but it's all stuff that I feel like the romance is secondary. S, science fiction. Yes, hot, as I said when I spoke about fantasy. T for translation. Books that have been translated from other languages. This is another one I would say is getting hotter. I have read quite a few Japanese novels, and I have been reading some Korean novels. Have some more that I'm definitely interested into looking into, and of course, there have been many books I've read that have been translated. Then U is for Ubermensch, which is the Superman or the superhuman. I would say this is probably cold. I haven't really read any books that have a Superman-like character, honestly, other than literally comics Superman is in. And yeah, so I don't really know that I would enjoy this. Then V is for Victorian. And yes, I would say that's hot. I do enjoy Victorian era literature quite a bit. W is for Western. I would say this is pretty cold. I've only read one, and it was an older one, and it was probably 5 years ago. And while I did not despise it, it was definitely not my favorite. So it's not necessarily something I am that interested in reading. X is for X-rated. I would say not really hot. I mean, it doesn't... While I don't mind it in my books, I do feel like sometimes there can be too much and it takes away from the rest of the book, or it's put in at awkward places in books. So it's not something that I look for, but it's not something that I turn away from automatically either. And why? We have for young adult. I would say this is still pretty hot. I read, obviously, a lot of young adult books, and I do enjoy quite a few of them. And then finally, Z is for Zeitgeist, which is the spirit or mood of the times. And this kind of depends. I would say it's another lukewarm. It depends on what time it was set in, if it's a time period I find interesting, if it's well researched. And sometimes I do feel like these can just be a little bit too much pop culture references, and that's all it is just name dropping. So yeah, that is my hot or not A to Z list. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more bookish content like this, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you next time in the Book Cave.